Hi, I'm Travis Roundy, and I'll be presenting Case 2.4, the faulty budget from Chapter 2. My first slide here has the case main points. Firstly, Jackson Daniels is an accountant. He works for a company and does the forecasting for them. He did a forecast for the next year's sales, and he showed an increase of 25% for the next year. Ultimately, however, he made an error, and the real forecast should only be 12.5%. So when discovering this error, he would talk to a friend, and his friend encouraged him to not tell anyone so that he could keep his job. Also, he went to the VP of production, who also encouraged him to keep it quiet so that it doesn't damage his or anyone else's reputation, and as well as save the jobs of the new hires that they had just hired in order to meet that level of production. So he has a couple options, but he's trying to decide between telling the truth and saving some jobs and reputations. So what options does he have? One, he could tell his boss. This option would indeed let him keep his integrity. He would be honest, he'd be truthful. It would also give the company time to reduce the staff and be able to maybe recuperate some of the expenses they've already had in trying to reach that 25% sale increase. The cons to this option are that Daniels may lose his job, as well as his reputation may be damaged, and the VP of production, who encouraged him not to tell, would also probably face some heat, and his reputation could be damaged. And then the new hires that they had just hired probably would be laid off because they would no longer be deemed necessary. The other option that Mr. Daniels has is to keep quiet about the issue. This would preserve his job as well as the jobs of the new hires, and not damage anyone's reputation. The cons of this, however, is that the company would continue to pay all these people, these new hires, and probably end up incurring a lot of expenses over the next year in order to produce inventory that would not even be sold. The rights of the stakeholders in this situation are Mr. Daniels. He has the right to a job, but he also has the right to tell the company the truth. The other people who have stakeholders in this job are the new hires. They have just been hired, and their families are probably going to want to have a job. So also we have the VP of production, whose reputation is at stake. And then we have the company itself, who has the right to have a good quarter, a good year, and be able to get the information they need in order to make the correct business decisions. Another determinant of what choice should be made is which one's going to give a clear conscience to Mr. Daniels, and I think telling the truth obviously would be that option. It would be able to clear his conscience, and he would be able to move on from this situation, whereas keeping quiet about it would maybe haunt him for years. So the people he should approach about making this decision are the VP that he talked to, and let him know that he is indeed going to tell his boss about the mistake and tell the company about the mistake so that they can correct it. He'll need to tell his boss his direct report. His boss is a financial controller, so hopefully he will be able to help fix the mistake and get to the place where they can get past the situation. I think Mr. Daniels should also go up to upper management about the VP. The VP's response to Mr. Daniels' scenario is it wasn't very good, and I think upper management would want to know that their VP is trying to keep mistakes quiet. The arguments that I think are the best arguments from this case study are: one, Mr. Daniels owes the company to report the mistake, and I think ultimately this argument would be the best argument because it affects the most people. You have shareholders, you have other employees and their families, and I think ultimately it's going to affect the most people. The second argument is that it's going to save the new hires' jobs, whereas Mr. Daniels, that's probably 20 or so people and their families that could be saved, and I think that needs to be taken into account. My third argument that should be considered is that truth is always the best path to take for the long term. It's going to make Mr. Daniels get over the situation and not have to be haunted by his mistake. Also help the company fix their mistake. And so I think those are the best arguments that come about from this scenario. And my best response to those who think telling the truth is not the right option is that keeping silent will hurt the most people in the long run. It may be able to save a few people's jobs and reputations initially, but if the company continues to make mistakes and continues to forecast above what they can sell, then the company is not going to make it. And so this is my presentation. Thank you very much.